What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. Okay, I wanted to just take a quick moment to reflect on these two previous proposals that did fail. There was a lot of outrage from the community. I know that I was one of those voices that immediately was against the proposals and emotionally charged about it as somebody who bought into both node licenses and Riftwatcher packs. But ultimately, they ended up failing. And what I'm talking about specifically is the repricing of Riftwatchers packs in DEC and the repricing of Validator node licenses in DEC as well. So proposals 12 and 13. And if you look at it, they failed with like only 43% support or 30% support respectively, when you do need 2/3 of the vote. So to me, this actually represents something amazing. Truly amazing. And I know it's easy to get caught up with where we were at and how, emotionally charged both sides of the proposal might have been. But I want to just take you guys back a year ago. Okay. A year ago, or roughly a year ago, in October of 2021, obviously, the world was in a much better place then. Inflation wasn't crazy sky high, or actually, it might have been already. But we were in the middle of a bull run. We were in the middle of a metaverse and Bitcoin run, and the team was implementing a lot of changes. One of which, the bigger ones, I would say, was the nerfing of bronze. And that was to try and cut off bots at the knees and just reduce farming within the system overall. Again, it ended up just being a band-aid solution, and we got the rank rewards earlier this year as a better fix to build upon that. But going back to that specific thing, a lot of people in the community were complaining about it, and we didn't fully understand the context for bots yet, right? A lot of newer players and players who were in bronze were not really happy with it. But the team just unilaterally made the decision, like any gaming company would. They said that this is not good for the game. We are going to change it, and they made the change, right? And that is very much in line with what we have all expected and experienced our entire lives. Which brings me to where we are at a year later. Almost like comically complaining about the amount of proposals out there in the ecosystem, and we were able to, as a community, vote something down that the team thought was good enough to present to us, and then the team also voted for in many instances. I mean, we can go in and see here that I believe, where is it? I think Aggie voted for this. I'm sure Matt probably voted for it as well. And so the point that I'm trying to make here is that it's easy to get caught up or dismiss this as like, oh, well, the whales are going to dominate it, or the team owns so much SPS, they're just going to vote, or, everybody who's just in line with this, they're going to vote with it, right? But clearly that wasn't the case. I mean, these are two things that I, now having had some space and some time to digest it, I fundamentally believe that pricing Riftwatchers in DEC isn't a bad idea. Right, I still like the idea of putting SPS in, but I'm not opposed to it. The validator node licenses, not as much. Again, maybe I can be talked into that, but I can understand the argument for why that should be the case. So from a macro, what's the greater good type of mentality, I can understand why these were put forth, even if they were responded to with some emotion, which again, I was very guilty of. But again, the broader point that I'm trying to make here is that the team didn't get it passed through. They thought that it was a good idea, or at least they thought that it was worth putting forward. They voted for it, and the community voted against it. And I think that is huge because just 12 months ago, right? Just 12 months ago, and probably even earlier this year with ranked rewards, when they made that change, I mean, most of us were on board and liked it. But if you didn't like a change before governance was live, you couldn't do anything about it. It's like, take it or leave it. It's their way or the highway. And I think this is one of the first really defining moments for where governance really shines. Okay, and I know most people, especially players at the lower leagues or that don't have large bags of SPS, they don't feel like their vote really counts. And you can see here that votes to pass. There's 212 million votes on this, and 213 million here. That's what, barely half of what is currently staked or what was staked around that time. We'll just call it half, right? And so a lot of people just aren't voting or aren't participating. And again, this isn't, everybody get out and share your voice. But if you do feel passionate about something, you do have the opportunity. And again, I know this ends up coming down to being a whales game, but as I've said many times, the entire world is a whales game, right? So if you think that there's magically not going to be any whales here, whether it's manipulation, whether it's influence, you're just you're being a little naive. And I say that with love, right? I think you're being a little naive to think that that's not going to happen here, or that we're somehow magically going to fix it and that this is going to be some kind of democracy, right? Where, each player gets a vote. But you know what ends up happening that way? Each of those bots is going to get a vote too, because they paid for their account. But again, I digress. The point that I'm trying to make here is that I think this is a shining example of governance working in a very positive way by turning down or voting against these proposals. Majority of the community really felt strongly against it and were able to vote against it. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see this repackaged in some way. And to be honest with you, I would be open to the language being different, or the actual process being different. And again, I'm pulling a number out of my butt here, but it's what I feel comfortable with, where it's, let's just say, a 10% discount, right? So what if they were to implement a way to buy Rift Watchers with DEC, but only when DEC was at 0.0009, or 10% below its peg? And if it's below that, you can only buy an SPS. If it's above that, so let's just say, anywhere between that and the peg, you are able to buy with DEC at the market rate of, or sorry, not at the market rate of DEC, but, for 5,000 DEC. I would actually support that because it's a 10% discount. It's not too crazy. I don't feel like it devalues what people who got in earlier were able to get, like the perks and bonuses and all that. And it doesn't allow for the market to then dictate, okay, these packs that I bought are now worth half the value, and people can come in and get all the same benefits, right? Not buying from the secondary market, but buying from the main market, and get that, right? So for me, and whether I'm right or wrong, or whether you agree or disagree with me, that's how I feel. And what I'm trying to do is come back to the table and say, okay, well, I don't think that, I'm not saying that this isn't a good idea in the long run, or that future products shouldn't be priced in DEC. I think that argument or that conversation still needs to be had, but I am open to them reintroducing this in some way with some certain stipulations, right? Because again, as we saw earlier this week, Bitcoin dropped to the all-time low for this year. I don't think that we're done with, the bear market just yet. And so part of me looks at this and says, well, I would assume that we would probably be off peg again at some point, but maybe we put this to, I saw somebody else suggested, what if we did it as a cascade, right? So early on, it costs a lot more DEC, but as it goes down, right? So for example, let's say, it's 9,000 DEC to buy right now, and then 8,000 and 7,000. And then when we're 3-4 months out of the sale, where things have, considerably slowed down, and some may argue that we're even there now, right? Where it's been 2 months roughly. So maybe next month or early January, maybe they put it so that we reprice it in DEC at that point in time. I mean, I'm much more open to it at that point. I think many others who voted against it would be much more open to it. And so all I'm trying to say is that I love the fact that they put this iteration out. They didn't change it much from, the initial post, the pre-post, to where it is now, but maybe this can be something that's reintroduced in the future, or at least I would be open to reconsidering my position if that ended up coming back in with some kind of, some kind of thoughtful, taking in some of the thoughtful feedback that was given during that time. For node licenses, again, I'm not really trying to get into the details of this. I guess I'm just trying to say that I'm open to the idea of the conversation being had. Again, I don't want them to ram it down our throats with no changes. I think that if they take the feedback and see that 70% of SPS stakers were against what this was going for with the node licenses, well, how do we have a good conversation? How do we have a productive conversation about that, and then tweak it if they want to move in this direction? Again, I think I still like SPS burning for it, but again, I'm open to having that conversation. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. Again, just wanted to highlight that whatever form of governance we have right now, and it really is just a V1, right? But whatever form of governance we have right now, I look at this, and to me, this makes me extremely happy. Not because we voted against it per se, but because of the fact that community sentiment did override what the team thought was a good idea and then what the team ultimately voted for. So, again, at the risk of being cliche, your voice does count and your wallet does count too, right? Because if you don't like something, feel free to go buy more SPS and vote against it, right? So, or just play the game, continue to earn SPS, and your vote will continue to grow over time. But, other than that, that's really all I have in this video. I would love to hear your thoughts, though, for people who are for or against it. Is this, am I taking this out of context? Am I giving it too much weight? For me, I don't think I am. I think that this is an important showcase of where governance can go in a good system where players don't like it and team does, and the players win, right? Or community wins. Show me other games where that's happening in such a I don't know how else to say it, like such a cohesive manner, right? In such a clean manner, right? Like, I know there was a lot of anger, there's a lot of whatever, but we put it to a vote and it got voted down. Whereas in a lot of Web 2 games right now, can you even vote? In Web 3 games, maybe there's some kind of down in place. And this is not to say that Splinterlands is leaps and bounds ahead of everybody, but I think it's leaps and bounds ahead of many, many other games in the space, both Web 2 and Web 3. So big shout out to the team, big kudos to the governance structure as it stands, and big kudos to the community as well for having a productive discussion and coming to a good consensus and letting the votes fall where they may. That is all I have for you guys in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I will catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.